Hello, welcome to Monastic online classes. Me, Dr. Bihari Mahato. I am going to discuss or describe about the botany. Subject is the food chain and food web of class 11. Class 11, this belongs to the last chapter, biota and environment. So, we are going to discuss about the food chain, and after that we will discuss about the food web. So, first of all, what is food chain? So, food chain, as the name indicates, a chain of food. So, energy transfer means transfer of food from one organism to another organism, or from or between the trophic levels in efficient with the physical efficiency around 10%. So, food chain means the transport of food from one trophic levels or from one organism to another organism by the process of eating and repeated eating and being eaten. So, in this way, the animals in ecosystem, we have already studied about the ecosystem. So, in ecosystem, different types of animals feed upon the first of all on the grasses that these are known as herbivorous animals, and herbivorous animals are eaten by the another carnivorous animals. So in this way, food from producers move to the consumers and different level of consumers, and lastly again return to the environment. This is known as food chain. So now the types of food chains. In nature, basically two types of food chains are found. Our food chain is classified into two basic types. First is the grazing food chain, and second is the detritus food chain. So, grazing food chain. What is grazing food chain? Grazing food chain means this type of food chain starts from the living green plants. So the grazing, as you know, grazing means the activities of domesticated animals or any animals which feed upon the grasses. So this type of food chain starts from the living green plants, means from producer, and goes to grazing herbivorous, and on to carnivorous. So first of all, producers trap the light energy and produce the food by photosynthesis, and after that the food transferred to the herbivorous animals, that is known as primary consumers, and then to the secondary consumers, tertiary consumer, and lastly return to the ecosystem or environment by the activities of decomposers. So in this way, so this type of ecosystem starts with the green plants. So ecosystem with such type of food chain directly depends upon the solar radiation. So it directly depends upon the solar radiation, and this type of food chain thus depends on autotrophic energy capture, means sun energy captured by producers, and the movement of this captured energy to herbivorous animals and through the carnivorous, lastly return to the environment. Now, food chain is on land. So we have already studied about the land ecosystem, that is the grassland ecosystem. And in this way, food is moved from producers to different levels of the carnivorous, like nectar of flowers. Flowers are the plants which produce nectar. Nectar is a juicy, sugary juice which feed by insects, butterflies, some birds, foxes. So in this way, from flowers, the food may move to the butterflies, and then to small birds, and lastly to the foxes. Similarly, dead plants, centipede, robin, raccoon. Decaying plants from worms, birds, eagles. Fruits, monkeys, monkey eating eagle, etc. Grass. So these are some examples of the food chain which occurs in land ecosystem. Now images which indicates the food chain, like in forest ecosystem, here are the trees, some which is fed by the deer, and deer is fed by the lion or other animals like tiger, leopard. Similarly, here so these are some examples of the food chain. 3 examples are given here in food chain, and this is the food web, because in ecosystem there are so many food chains are found which intersect each other and form a web-like structure, and this is known as food web. Now the sequences of food chain in a pond ecosystem, we have already studied about this. The phytoplanktons means a small macroscopic plants. So they produce food by photosynthesis, and that food goes to the zooplanktons which feed upon them, and then in small fishes, lastly in large fishes. In forest ecosystem, trees, deer, fox, tiger. So these are the flow of energy or food in pond ecosystem and forest ecosystem. Now another type of food chain is the detritus food chain. So it is a new word, detritus. Detritus means, detritus may be defined as waste or debris of any kind. Waste or debris, debris means wastage. When we make vegetable in our home, then the wastage come from them. So these debris are also known as detritus. So waste or debris of any kind is known as detritus. Another definition for the detritus is organic matter produced by the decomposition of organisms. If when the dead body of plants and animals are decomposed by microbes, these are also known as detritus. And third definition is that typically includes the bodies or fragments. Bodies of plants and animals and their fragments means small pieces, tukra, bodies of dead organism and fecal material also. So fecal material also comes under the detritus. So this is about the detritus. What is detritus? So 3 definitions are given here for the detritus. Now, detritus food chain now goes start from the dead and decaying organic matter. It does not depends upon the producers. These are the green plants. So detritus food chain goes from dead or start from dead organic matter and goes to, first of all, microorganisms, bacteria and fungi. These are known as decomposers, and then to organism feeding on detritus, detrivores, and their predators. So they are larger animals which feed upon the smaller animals. Such ecosystems are thus less dependent upon the direct solar energy. So there is no need of solar energy because it does not produce food. It does not start from the producers like grassland ecosystem. So this is the main difference between grassland ecosystem, grazing food chain and detritus food chain, because the grazing food chain start from the green plants, that is the producers. But here detritus food chain start from the dead and decaying matter. So it does not depend upon the solar energy or less depend upon the solar energy, and they chiefly depend upon the influx of organic matter produced in another ecosystem. So the plants and animals which are produced in grassland ecosystem or in forest ecosystem, and this dead body provide food for detritus food chain. Now example, a very good example is given here by some scientists. A best example of detritus food chain, the food chain of mangrove forest. Mangrove forest means a type of forest which is found in sea coast or sea coast. So this tree, the tree which are found on the sea coast are especially known as mangrove forest or mangrove tree. So the food chain of a mangrove forest relies heavily on the railing detritus. So this Forest shows the detritus food chain because the trees are found on the coastal region of the sea. Their leaves fall in warm and shallow water sea on the coastal region. And these leaves are decomposed by microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. And while decomposing, these decomposed food are known as detritus, which feed by another microbes, another detritus food eating animals. Okay, so these microorganisms produce detritus. The fungi and bacteria produce detritus, which along with which are fed by some animals like mollusca and crustacean, crabs and small fishes. So this constitute the primary consumers, and these animals are eaten by small fishes. These are known as secondary consumers, which in turn eaten by large fishes and fish-eating birds. So these are the top carnivores. So this detritus food chain start with the dead bodies, decomposing body, which is especially known as detritus. Hence the name is detritus food chain. And these dead bodies are produced in another ecosystem. Thus, it does not require sunlight directly, and it mostly depends upon the dead organic matter which is produced in another ecosystem. So these are the main difference between grazing food chain and detritus food chain. Now, food web. Food chain means simple chain, that is a linear sequence where when food move from producers to primary consumers, secondary consumer, tertiary consumers, and again mixed up in the soil. So this is the food chain. And now food web, because in any ecosystem several types of food chain are found in ecosystem, and they occur side by side at a time, and they intersect each other and form a network-like structure which is known as food web. So in an ecosystem, various food chains are linked together and intersect each other and form a complex network. Hence is known as food web, means net-like structure, because several food chains intersect, interconnected, and hence form a web-like structure, and hence it is known as food web. So a food web is the natural interconnection of food chains. So several food chains are connected each other and form a food web. And a graphical representation, usually an image, what is in an ecology community. Another name for food web is consumer resource system. So it shows several types of food chains occurs in an ecosystem side by side, and these are interconnected with each other and form a net-like structure which is known as food web. Four characteristics of food web are as follows. Food web consists of a number of interconnected food chains, so through which energy travels in an ecosystem. Second one is usually members of higher trophic level feed upon many organisms of lower trophic level, because any organism or animals does not feed only one organisms. So they feed upon several organisms and thus make several food chain, and which is known as ecosystem. Now, third characteristic feature is the presence of complex food webs. Increases the stability of the ecosystem. If we have several options for the food chain or for the animal, or several resources for any animal, then that become stable, and they makes the survival of the animal stable, hence the ecosystem becomes strong. And now food webs show how plants and animals are connected in many ways. So plants and animals are they are connected in many ways. So these are the 4 characteristic features of the food web. These are some examples of food chain in the Tetris food chain, food chains in. These are the examples of both type grassland ecosystem. So sun provides energy for the tree which produce food, and now their leaves fall in the warm water, and that is decomposed by detritus, a small microorganism. They are eaten by crab, and crabs are eaten by small fishes. Similarly, in grassland also, sun, grasses, detritus, and here are worms and birds. So these are the food chain in detritus. Thank you. Fixed for home. Stay safe.